Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we will discuss the histology of esophagus and the stomach. Throughout the GIT, we have four basic layers: the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, and the serosa. So we'll discuss all the histology slides of the GIT under these same headings. We'll start with the esophagus. From the lumen towards the periphery, we have first the mucosa. The mucosa in the esophagus consists of epithelium, lining epithelium, the lamina propria, and the muscularis mucosae. The lining epithelium, throughout the GIT it is columnar, but in the esophagus and the anal canal we have stratified squamous epithelium. It is non-keratinized epithelium, so we have to write stratification. The basal columnar, then 2 to 3 polygonal cells, and the topmost layer squamous, and they have nucleus. So the basement membrane is not straight, they will be folded. The lumen of the esophagus is collapsed, so when food is not there, the folds of the mucous membrane will close the lumen. When food comes, it will be enlarged. So show some variations in the basement membrane and the stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium with a proper nucleus also you have to keep. The basal little oval nucleus towards the base, then a round nucleus for the stratum spinosum, and the flat nucleus for the topmost layer. So below the mucosa, shade with a light pink so that it is easy to write the structures over it. So shade with a light pink. Then just below the epithelium, we have to show that as a lamina propria. Lamina propria is nothing but the loose connective tissue, similar to the lamina propria throughout the GIT. So we have diffuse lymphatic tissue scattered there, and lymphatic nodules are also present here and there. Below the lamina propria, we have muscularis mucosae. The main important thing in esophagus is the muscularis mucosae is only longitudinally organized smooth muscles are present. There is no circular smooth muscles. Only longitudinal bundles of smooth muscles, no circular layer. Only one layer of muscularis mucosae is present in the esophagus. So keep the nuclei for the longitudinal bundles also. So the epithelium, lamina propria, and the longitudinal bundle of smooth muscle constitute the mucosa. Just below the mucosa, we have submucosa, which consists of dense connective tissue, irregular connective tissue, and also contains the blood vessels, lymphatics, nerve fibers, and all. In the esophagus, it also contains seromucous glands, that is the glands which lubricates the lumen. They pour the secretion into the lumen. The seromucous glands, they are called esophageal glands in the submucosa. So write some blood vessels, scattered lymphatics, and the seromucous glands. the tubulo-alveolar glands. We'll see the cross sections of all the mucus and serous glands, both will be present. And coming to the muscularis externa, everywhere we have inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. There is a speciality in the esophageal muscularis externa. In the upper one third of the esophagus, we have a striated muscles, that's a voluntary muscle, whereas in the middle one third, it's a admixture of both striated and smooth muscle fibers. In the distal one third, we have only smooth muscles. So there is a gradual change from striated to smooth muscles. Make sure when you're writing the muscularis externa, the number of layers are more, should be more compared to muscularis mucosae. Muscularis mucosae is very thin layer of muscle, whereas externa is a very thick layer and very helpful in peristalsis. So inner circular layer, the flat smooth muscles with tapering ends and flat nucleus. Outer bundles of longitudinal muscles with sections of size varying in size, and the nucleus in the center, round nucleus. You need not keep nucleus for all in longitudinal bundles. So the outermost layer is the connective tissue layers. The esophagus in the neck and in the thorax region is covered by adventitia, whereas the intra-abdominal part of the esophagus is covered by a serosa. So adventitia or serosa, I can write both, and it also contains some adipose tissue, blood vessels and all. The key thing in the esophagus is the epithelium and submucosal glands. Now coming to the stomach, before drawing the diagram, first you make the marking that how much you have to write the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa and all. Otherwise the last layers you don't get space. So I have marked here the mucosa should be this much thick. In that 1/3 should be the pit and the remaining 2/3 should be the glands. So roughly you have to mark it in a lead pencil, later you can erase that. Then you can start drawing the diagram. So the stomach, as usual, will go to the first layer, the mucosa, which consists of the epithelium. The epithelium has a pits. Pits are nothing but a depression which you can grossly also see with the lens. So the base of the pit, they consist of glands, gastric glands. These are the straight tubular glands. They are branched. They extend from the bottom of the pit till the muscularis mucosae. The surface mucous epithelium is lined by columnar epithelium. It secretes a visible mucus, means the mucus is secreted by these cells which have a cloudy appearance to protect this underlying structure from the acidity there. The glands, the fundy glands, between the fundus glands and the pit, you have a small region called isthmus. That is the area where the stem cells will be located. In the glands, you first draw the parietal cells. These are triangular shape actually and forms a bead-like thing in the glands. Their cytoplasm is pinkish and they stand out among the other cells. So first you draw the parietal cells. They'll be present in the body and very few in the base of the pit, base of the gland. So later in between these parietal cells, you have to draw the columnar cells. The upper part, very close to the pit, the cells are the mucus cells, mucus neck cells. Towards the base, you have a chief cells. So parietal cells, you have to draw the big cells roughly triangular in shape and shade the cytoplasm with Eosin pencil and a central round nucleus. The ultrastructure and all is very important of these parietal cells. It has an intracellular canaliculi and they also secretes HCl and intrinsic factor. So in between you can draw the columnar epithelium. The one towards the pit is the mucus neck cells. Then the one towards the base will be the chief cells. The chief cells, we have to shade the cytoplasm basophilic because they'll be highly active and they're the one which synthesizes the pepsin. The mucous neck cells, it is difficult to distinguish with them from the surface cells. They will synthesize. There is a difference in the mucus secreted by these neck cells and the surface mucus cells. Here the mucus secreted by this surface, the neck cells are soluble mucus, whereas the surface cells, they secrete a visible mucus. So below that you have to shade the underlying structure, the lamina propria. Then you have a muscularis mucosae, inner circular and outer longitudinal. This inner circular layer will extend between the pits. Okay, few so smooth muscles can extend into the lamina propria towards the surface also. And in the lamina propria, make sure you shade the side background and write some lymphocytes. You can also write some lymphatic aggregates. So this epithelium with the pit and the gastric glands, the lamina propria underneath that, which also contains the lymphatic granule, lacteals, the small blood vessels and all. Then the muscularis mucosa. All these three constitute the mucosa. So shade the cytoplasm of the chief cells, basophilic. They'll be present only towards the base of the gastric glands. So don't shade the cytoplasm of the upper cells. Only the basal cells are chief cells. So this is the mucosa. So the below is the submucosa, shade with the background pink. It consists of dense irregular connective tissue, blood vessels, the nerves, Meissner plexus and all. But it is difficult to notice the Meissner plexus. Coming to the muscularis externa, you have an extra layers. Most of the stomach, except along the lesser curvature, the stomach has 3 layers. Oblique. The traditional textbook says inner oblique, middle circular, and outer longitudinal, but the arrangement can be in any shape. The muscle fibers will be intermingled. So here I am showing the inner oblique. This oblique muscle you can show as a oblique tapering and smooth muscles, or like a longitudinal section, cut section of the muscles. So the fibers can run in different direction, oblique, and then middle circular, the outer longitudinal, which are similar the way how you have written in other slides. So make sure the muscle layer is very thick. Okay, the muscularis externa is the thicker one. Lastly, the most of the area of the stomach is covered by a peritoneum, so you can write serosa there, which consists of a single squamous epithelium, that's a mesothelium. Make sure you keep the flat nucleus. The 3 layers should be prominent in the muscularis externa. So the stomach, the main thing is in the mucosa, the pits and the glands. The shorter pits, the glands are tubular and usually they will be colorful, like parietal cells will be pinkish, very prominent cells. Chief cells are bluish, present towards the base. Now coming to the pylorus, there is not much difference in the body and the pylorus. The only difference is in the gastric glands. So and the pits, the mucosa part. Here you may, as usual, you make an outline how much to write the mucosa, submucosa and muscularis externa first. Then you start drawing diagram with the HND, because it's difficult to erase later. So the pylorus part has a deeper pits. almost 2/3 of the mucosa you have to write the pit, deeper pit, and the glands below. They are also tubular and highly branched and coiled glands there. So in the lower part you will see a lot of sections because they are highly coiled and branched. The lining epithelium of these glands are similar to the lining epithelium of the surface cells. So it is nothing much to differentiate in the lower part. So make sure you write the deeper pits, the glands in the lower 1/3, and the branched and highly coiled one. Apart from these cells, they also contain enteroendocrine cells. They are very difficult to distinguish among the others. Only with special stain they can be distinguished. And the stem cells are present near the isthmus, which is a junction between the pit and the glands. So the cells which are destined to produce the surface mucous cells, they'll ascend up. The cells which produce the gland cells, they'll descend down. So all are columnar cells with a oval basally placed nucleus. When the stomach comes in the histology, they definitely ask the difference between the fundus and the pyloric mucosa. So make sure you noted the length of the pit, length of the gland, what are the cells present in that, and also the individual cell microstructure also, especially the fundus. That's the body, the parietal and oxyntic cells. Ultrastructure also you should be knowing. So then we have to write muscularis mucosae, the inner circular and outer longitudinal, 1 or 2 layers. This inner circular will extend between the pits, and the lamina propria, shade the lamina propria and write some few lymphatic tissue. You can also write some lymphatic aggregates and all. So this constitutes the mucosa, the epithelium with the pits and the glands, lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. All these three are a part of mucosa. Just below the mucosa we have a submucosa, which is similar to the other areas in the GIT, which consists of dense irregular connective tissue, blood vessels and Meissner's plexus. Next is the muscularis externa, which is similar to the stomach body. The inner oblique, middle circular and outer longitudinal layer, the thickest muscle layer you have in the stomach. So if you like my videos, please give a thumbs up, share with your friends and subscribe to my channel. So outermost layer is the serosa, which is lined by the squamous epithelium, that's the mesothelium. Hope these videos will help you to draw the diagram, histology diagram properly without any mistake. Thank you for watching.